Come on,
You know,
man. I
the
mean,
purpose of the life insurance is if you not making enough money to cover, I'm talking about liquid, to pay for your own funeral, where your family don't have to go and do a GoFundMe or something like that. If you're not walking around with, $20,000, 15, 20 to pay for your funeral, cash, for, to bury you or whatever, however you want to be buried, life insurance is for that. You know what I'm saying? Because there are wealthy people that they don't have life insurance, but they have a will. They don't
yeah,
need life insurance because they can afford the funeral. But
yeah.
they have a will where their money is going. And so we got people walking around, they don't have life insurance and they don't have a will. Or they have a will, but no life insurance. When you in a certain income bracket, you need both.
But they everywhere though. They got everything new, and they ain't taking care of the main business at the house.
I said this 5 months ago about people that will go and spend $350, every month or two, every 2 months or so. They'll buy 6 pair of sneakers a year at $300, whether it's any Nike, it don't matter who it is, but so that 300 that you gonna spend every 2 months. So basically, how many pair of sneakers you buy? 6. You spend $1,800 a year. That same $1,800, you could have just invested in Nike. If you're gonna give all Nike all your bread, you might as well get a piece of what they doing. It's only $60 a share. You could every year you spending $1,600. You could go, how much? I can't even do the math on the top of my head. What is that? 16. That's what, 30 shares a year? You could buy 30 shares of Nike every year. So after 10 years, you'll have 300 shares. At least you got something you could pass down. That's only 10 years. You could have something to pass out. Yo, I own Nike stock. It don't matter who's in the national championship, what sport, what no matter what it is. I got Nike stock. I'm good. My kids is good. You ain't gotta brag about it. Just have it. Get life insurance. I mean, everybody got an expiration date, dog, and you don't have no life insurance.
But at the same time, these are the type of things that are not taught to Black families. I mean, it's been definitely a disconnect. Because back in the day, they had wills and they would make wills and they would leave it. So, this land is for my kids, whatever, so forth. But somewhere along the lines, people just stopped doing that shit. And, their families being in a wreck after that. They don't know that because they gone. But, to keep the peace, have your shit ready. Have your shit ready. Like, have your shit ready to go. Have your shit, like, this is where the shit is at. This is what we doing. And this is how it's going down.
That's the best piece of advice that we could give to anybody. That's the best piece of advice you could give. Prepare for the future. And you gotta have life insurance. You need that. You gotta have a will. You don't want your money up in probate court. People gotta fight and they gotta sue each other to get money because you decided you didn't know who you was gonna leave it to. You can't go, especially when you're talking about millions of dollars. I can't be worth 50 million and not have a will.
I mean, you see people fighting over thousands.
That's what I'm saying. Like, so if I'm worth 50 million and I don't have no will, like, come on. It's the mentality, man. That's the last 30 years. I can't front, man. The last 25 years, I've just seen the complete reversal of everything that we was raised on. The whole community building and things like that. Like, we was raised with certain principles. Like, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that. We're gonna open up this program.
All that shit went out the window.
Everything went out the window. Yeah, and, that's what I keep telling people. Everything went out the window. Once the CIA came and we was funding that war. In another country, Nicaragua and all of that. Like, that's real. Like, crack and heroin killed the community. They dropped down the property values. Buildings was getting burnt out and all of that. And then people with money was coming and buying it and holding the land. They bought it cheap. What's that the old motto? Buy low, sell high.
Yeah.
People was losing their places. You got the banks doing the mortgage fraud. They're doing legalized mortgage fraud because they're doing that. What's that? The fluctuating rates that they was giving out to people.
Yeah.
Like this year is you could afford it, and then next year is no way because the rates done went up. They tripled.
That shit go up so high.
Yeah, go ahead. You pricing people out in like a quarter. In January you could afford it. Then by November the interest rate is about 50%. You can't.
They usually give you about 3 to 5 years, and then that balloon kick in. Once that
when the balloon kick in and you locked into that and you can't afford it, you're done. And they ain't no 5 years later they're gonna
get the property back.
So then they're gonna
resell it.
They're gonna resell it. But then the smart people, when the crack and the heroin came, they just bought up the land around the hood and they just held it because they already know what's coming down the pike 15, 20 years from now. If you're a businessman, I'm just holding this right here. This is Manhattan property, or this is Brooklyn. This is Bed-Stuy. This is Dumbo. Down by the bridge. It wasn't nothing more grimier than the area by downtown Brooklyn by the bridges. And now that property is unaffordable.
That shit is the third. That shit is the what is it? It's the first. It's number one. It's the highest property in the country. Then San Francisco. Then Manhattan is third.
That's what I'm saying.
So downtown Brooklyn has turned into a gold mine to the point where they've started removing people from the projects.
Right.
Because they want to use that now.
Well, a couple of private industries, a couple of private businesses have actually bought some of the nicer buildings, from the city because the city, taking the money, people are coming in and they're invested and they, so now when they buy a building, they look at the rent roll and they got to start kicking people out.
Yeah, like
you know what I mean?
You used to be late with your rent. You better not be late now because your ass is out of here.
Especially if it's private owned. Because I would tell you like this: I drive on the FDR Drive. I remember some projects there. Like what it used to be projects, they all like in the 20s, and then over like every year you just see like an upgrade to the building. Now they got green windows, the brick looks nice and brown, and then all of a sudden it wasn't a project no more. It took about 8 years, but it ain't the PJs. It's right on the FDR Drive. You can't miss it when you're going northbound. You can't miss it.
You ever been to Coney Island? You been out to Coney Island?
Absolutely. Recently,
you see how they redone all the buildings.
Absolutely.
They taking over, because the Jews own part of that section. They like the European Jews, right. And they own a lot of that over there in Coney Island. They took over a whole building, redone the whole building. That's their shit.
Yeah, that whole area by Brighton Beach side.
Back in the day, that building was predominantly black.
I know that, and I know the building that you're talking about. It's the building right off the boardwalk. It's like a creamish looking building, about 20 floors. I know what you're talking about. But see, the European Jews over there, the Russians, they own that side of Coney Island.
They own that,
over there on the Brighton Beach side. And then
they carved out a nice little niche for themselves. They carved out a nice little niche.
They carved out a nice spot. And then now where MCU Park is by the baseball field, where Coney Island amusement park is, that's being slowly taken over, but they're trying to revitalize that area. Now the project is still out there. You know what I'm saying? But if anybody that lives out there, that's like another world, man. It's a straight up 2-fare zone. Because even if you live, all right, the train leaves you on West 8th. The project, a lot of the project buildings is on like 28th Street. You a mile from the train station. You know what I'm saying? So it ain't like it's like convenient. So even in parts, I got family in Detroit, parts of Detroit where you come downtown, you can't even get to the airport unless you take a cab. There's no buses that run from downtown to the airport. Like it's just like that, man. We end up living in these areas, but you got to build the infrastructure. So. But before you even build the infrastructure, you got to build a mental infrastructure to say, all right, we're going to take over this area one building at a time. We're going to put up this grocery store and we're going to support it. We ain't even doing that.
It doesn't even seem the way what you're saying was the truth, but it doesn't even it doesn't even sound like that's something black people can do.
So we believe in Wakanda and Black Panther, but you can't try to make it actually materialize to put something together like that. But we could walk around in dashikis and greet each other on that stuff, but we can't even support our own neighborhoods, man. It don't make sense.